Moscow and greeted by Putin's envoy Dmitriev, according to reports. This comes after the U.S. State Department confirmed that Witkoff will be in Moscow to meet with the Russian leadership. Here's what the State Department had to say.
Well, first of all, the President has noted, of course, that Special Envoy Witkoff will be traveling to Russia this week, so we can confirm that from this podium. What that will entail, I have no details for you. When it comes to, clearly the President's not happy with Mr. Putin and Russia, but he remains committed to diplomatic solutions. I would say that we've also seen a remark, perhaps a reflection of possible secondary sanctions regarding the sale of oil, people who are countries that are buying Russian oil. And that has been openly discussed by the President. But when it comes to things that are decided, we would wait for the President.
This comes as the U.S. President said that he will make a decision on whether to sanction countries who purchase Russian oil after a meeting with Russian officials scheduled for August 6th. Moreover, Trump, who has reportedly signaled frustration with Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin in recent weeks, has given him until August 8th to make progress towards peace in Ukraine or face tougher sanctions. Here's what the U.S. President had to say.
But we'll be doing quite a bit of that. We'll see what happens over the next fairly short period of time. But we'll see what happens. Yep. You know, they have a meeting tomorrow. We have a meeting with Russia tomorrow. We're going to see what happens. We'll make that determination at that time.
Now for this discussion, we're joined by Madhav Nalapat. He's the editorial director at the Sunday Guardian. Joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you, Madhav Nalapat, for joining us today. Good to see you. Now, what is the significance of U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff's visit to Moscow, especially given the context of ongoing tensions? And also, can we expect any breakthrough from this?
Well, I doubt there'll be a breakthrough. I think Putin has gone too far and invested too much of blood and treasure in Ukraine to stop short of fulfilling his objectives. So I don't think Trump's threat is going to make much difference. And anyway, the fact is Russia is already very heavily sanctioned by the United States. Frankly, any additional sanctions are, just adding on to the huge pile of sanctions already endured by Russia. So having gone through so much of pain, I don't think Vladimir Putin is going to hold back until he achieves his objectives in Ukraine, which is a complete demilitarization and neutralization of Ukraine. So I am very skeptical of any peace agreement being reached in the immediate future.
And Madhav Nalapat, given that President Trump has set a date for August 8th deadline for Russia to make progress towards peace in Ukraine, how do you think Russia will respond to this ultimatum?
Look, first of all, he said 50 days, and now he said a few days, 8th August. 8th August is right next door, frankly. And you can't keep changing deadlines in this manner and expect the other country to take those deadlines seriously. I mean, he's brought it forward once, he could bring it back again to what it was tomorrow. So the reality is, 8th August is too short a period and frankly too short a deadline. And secondly, that keep on changing deadlines in a matter as serious as the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, where Ukraine is being completely assisted by NATO and is now using US weapons, of course, sold at cost to Ukraine through money received from the Europeans. So quite frankly, for Donald Trump, this is a profitable business for the United States. He's selling money. He's getting money for the sale of his weapons to Ukraine. And the Europeans are paying the bill. So quite honestly, there's no real incentive on either side to have a quick ceasefire.
And now, what could this mean for U.S. and Russia's relationship going forward?
Look, the relationship is at rock bottom. how far do you go after rock bottom? There's nowhere else to go. So the relationship is already right at rock bottom. There was an initial belief that, in during the Biden presidency, after the end of the Biden presidency, that there would be a revival in relations. Frankly, that makes geopolitical sense because China is really the main adversary. I mean, and I think you have the distinguished Dr. Taniguchi on your panel, from what I can see, a highly distinguished scholar. He will agree with me that the real problem is with China and the South China and the Chinese attempt to control, first of all, the one half of the Indo-Pacific and the other half later. So from that point of view, frankly, this very close alliance between Russia and China, which has been created by the Ukraine war, is not doing any services to any democracy, whether the US or Japan or India or France or any of those countries that are cheerleading for Ukraine. So again, very honestly, in my personal view, the attention of the United States need to shift to the Indo-Pacific, need to shift from Russia to China, and if a peace deal is reached, that can be done. But as of now, the peace deal seems quite far distant.
And Madhav, since you've mentioned China already, if these sanctions are implemented, do you think this will push Russia closer to China and India closer to Russia?
Look, as far as India closer to Russia is concerned, well, I'm not very sure about that because India and China, as you know, are adversaries. The Chinese have been very aggressive towards us. We are the only country to have lost lives in combat against the Chinese after 1979, the Vietnam invasion of theirs, which didn't end too well for them. And quite frankly, we see them as an adversary. And now we have been having, for example, military drills with the Philippines. It's got its own problems over the Paracel Islands with China. China, when it wants something, it says it's Chinese and just grabs it. Now, that's not valid international behavior. So they wanted the Paracel, so they just grabbed it from the Philippines. It's as a weaker power. That's not fair at all. And from that point of view, the Philippines is naturally very unhappy with China. And again, from that point of view, I think it's important for President Trump to understand that the adversary is China. His initial track of trying to mend fences with Russia was the right track, and his diversion from that track, I don't know who are the whisperers in his ear who got him to diverge from that track, but by doing so, he is compromising U.S. interests, compromising U.S. security interests, which frankly are heavily concentrated in the Indo-Pacific, as the Defense Secretary Hegseth will tell you, as others will tell you in the U.S. security team. The real threat now is now developing in the Indo-Pacific and is developing from China. So I think President Trump should go back to his original track of trying to ensure that the Russia-China alliance shows some kind of separation. Of course, some people are not going to like this, including, for example, Japan, which has got terrible memories of Russia. But the reality of the situation is that's what geopolitical need requires. But I doubt that's going to happen. As far as President Trump is concerned, it's very difficult to predict. The one thing you can predict safely about him is completely unpredictable. So as far as he's concerned, I don't know what he's going to decide. But very frankly, the main threat is in the Indo-Pacific, and the main threat is from China. Actually, President Trump during his campaign had got that very well, very clearly. And suddenly, 6 months into his presidency, he seems to have completely reversed course. I think he should go back to his original position he took as a candidate and won the election, and frankly promised voters who voted for him on the basis of the promises he made during the campaign, part of which was to stand up to China and secure the Indo-Pacific together with friendly powers, that is India. He has certain secondary sanctions on India as well. That makes no sense. You can't bracket India with China. It makes no sense at all. The Indians are a partner, the Chinese are an adversary. So very honestly, I mean, speaking as somebody who has frankly had a lot of regard for President Trump back in 2015 at the USI, United Service Institution of India, a military institution, I predicted that Trump would be the next president before he had even declared his candidacy. I would like to see him come back to being the original Trump. And the sooner he does that, the better, I think, for all the democracies.
Thank you, Madhav Nalapat, for joining us and sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as